I'd like everybody to give a big round of applause to that caped crime buster, that veiled vermin, that slimy Samaritan, the masked maggot.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Tell me, oh masked maggot,
Yeah?
why do you wear that costume?
What costume?
That costume, that cape, that cowl, that cloak.
Oh, the maggot suit? I wear it to strike fear into the heart of evildoers.
Ooh, I'm frightened already.
This is a true story. It happened to a friend of mine. Ramon's tortilla stand stood proudly in the shadow of a pylon supporting the new superhighway. Its recent completion had whisked away his once prosperous business, taking it to the new resort down by the bay. Ramon was a good man, an honest man, and he watched in anguish as his staff, once numbering 35 proud employees, dwindled down to just he and Juan, his not-too-bright assistant. One day, as Juan, the not-too-bright assistant, made a batch of tortillas, a miracle happened. One of the tortillas bore a perfect image of the king. Was it the consistency of the batter? The arrangement of bricks in the oven? Or was it Juan, who could never get the mix right? No matter. As word spread, people flocked from miles around to see the image of the king baked into the holy tortilla. Ramon was agog. Or was it aghast? No matter. Whatever the word, Ramon couldn't believe his good fortune. People who had once forsaken Ramon's tortilla stand for the new resort now sheepishly returned. On nice days, it took hours to reach the front of the line and view the holy tortilla. And each and every pilgrim bought a replica holy tortilla. Ramon's fortunes grew. He made so much money that he began to renovate. What was once a humble tortilla stand was now a wonderful tortilla shack. Success brought more success. With Ramon's business wizardry and Juan's, experiments in the kitchen, the business grew from a tortilla shack to a tortilla hut, and finally into a fine tortilla restaurante. And with each new success, Ramon raised the prices. But no matter. People were coming to see the shrine of the holy tortilla, no matter what the cost. While Ramon greeted the pilgrims and profited from their success, poor Juan was locked away in the kitchen, forgotten, and he was so overworked. Because Ramon wasn't going to cut into his profits by hiring extra help, Juan began to make mistakes. And one day, poor Juan, not a rocket scientist to begin with, slipped up big time. You see, Ramon had become greedy. So greedy, in fact, that he began to limit the times that pilgrims could view the holy tortilla. He didn't want the filthy tortilla pilgrims to interfere with his fancy dining room customers. Replica holy tortillas didn't make as much profit as Ramon's double enchilada surprise dinner special. So, during the dinner hours, the holy tortilla was moved from its impressive shrine in the dining room to any available spot in the back of the kitchen, wherever there was room. This arrangement kept the dining room clear at mealtimes, and that was very important to Ramon. One day, a poor man comes to the back door of the restaurante. He had no money, but was begging for scraps to eat. Juan, the not-too-bright assistant, looked around the kitchen and, seeing nothing to give away, asked Ramon's advice. Ramon quickly looked around and saw an old tortilla lying on the counter. It was dusty and very stale, certainly fit for a beggar. "Give that to him and then send him away," said Ramon. But, protested Juan. "Give it to him, then get him out of here," ordered Ramon, who then stormed out of the kitchen. Juan's butts fell on deaf ears. Juan went to the back door and handed the tortilla to the beggar.
Thank you very much,"
said the beggar.
Say,
He asked as he turned to go, the sunset bouncing off his silver pilot-frame sunglasses.
you wouldn't have any peanut butter and nanners to go with that, would you?
And that that is how the Holy Tortilla magically left the building. This is a true story. It happened to a friend of mine. But it is said that someday, if we truly, truly believe, the Holy Tortilla may return.
So, tell me, masked maggot, what crime-fighting tools do you have?
Well, for starters, I have my utility belt.
Oh? What's that?
It contains secret stuff like my maggot aerosol spray.
Maggot aerosol spray? What does that do?
Well, it smells like I'm here, even when I'm not. Here, have a whiff.
What's that?
That is my greatest crime-fighting weapon of all, the Maggot Mobile!
Oh, this I gotta see right after our next freaky story.
This is a true story. It happened to a friend of mine. It was a night in December in the year of our Lord, 1888. While terror haunted the streets of our town, the unwary met a grim fate. The footsteps of doom rang down cobblestone streets, through snow and through sleet and through rain. As lone newsboy shouted to rare passerby, "Old Jackie has stricken again!" Inside of the cozy Lamb and Scythe Inn, the cry of the newsboy rang out. But on that night, my dears, the poor guests and the staff were riddled with worry and doubt. A mysterious lodger had moved in up the stair. He reeked of evil and fear. He dressed like no other, with filth-matted hair. You were wary when he drew near. Agnes the barmaid, a rare beauty 'tis told, held their attention fast, as she told how the stranger arrived at the inn a few nights past. She told them how he appeared at the door in robes that were filthy and tattered. But she had no spare room, just a chamber up the stairs. It was quiet, was all that it mattered. He dragged a large sack to the top of the stair, refusing the food and drink offered, then reached into his pouch and plucked a gold coin which Agnes put into the coffers. The pubgoers listened in dread silent awe as the barmaid spun her dark tale. Then sensing a look of fear in her eyes, they spun round and saw Lodger pale. He emerged from the shadows, descending the stairs, then stood clad in red cloak and hat. He nodded a silent good evening to all, then left. That seemed to be that. Seizing her chance, barmaid summoned her daring and led a group up to his room. Pushing the old wooden door aside, they ventured on into the gloom. The room, it was dark and cluttered with things, with almost no room for a bed. And that's where she found the infernal list with all their names written in red. The names thus inscribed caught in Agnes's throat. Could he be the Jackie they fear? For at this dark hour, with no one about, the question, did he lurk near? Down cobblestone streets he stalked through the night, peering through window and curtain. Then he would pause to add to his list, then a check just to make certain. Later that night he returned to the inn, the jovial room now drawn quiet. He stole up the stair, paused and gave them a wink. That quite nearly started a riot. The pubgoers summoned the constables near. The mob charged the stairs in their wake. Lanterns, torches, and pitchforks were waved, and one bore an old wooden rake. They'd pound down that locked door, there'd be no escape. They'd capture the fiend sure that night. It's 4 stories down to the cold streets below. He won't put up much of a fight. The door wouldn't open, they beat it again. The hinges, they rattled and clattered. But finally, under the pounding onslaught, the wood crumbled and splintered and shattered. Oh, the room, it was empty. The desk, it was bare. The window was open, but he wasn't there. The mob turned, they searched, they scoured the room, searching for clues, the what, when, why, and whom. The candlelight fell upon his dread note. They folded it open to read what he wrote. A line down the middle, dividing it twice into 2 portions, the naughty and nice. Then a shivering breeze blew in through the room, brought a sound from outside. Had he fallen to his doom? They looked down from the window to the dark streets below, searching where his old body had fallen. Then, much to their shock, heard a cheery hello, couldn't see from where he was calling. Then Agnes the barmaid looked on, not in fear, for he rode in a sleigh pulled by tiny reindeer. As he soared through the night above old London town, a shower of bright gifts came a-tumbling down. A doll and a horse and a train, a toy, a nice gift for every good girl and good boy. For there above the snow-covered rooftops he'd jingle. He waved and he laughed, he was old man Kris Kringle. This is a true story. It happened to a friend of mine. And so Agnes the barmaid swept out the dark room. She opened the windows to dispel the gloom. But while cleaning the chamber, dear girl got a fright when she opened the cupboard and found him that night. Old St. Nicky leapt up, chased on down to the streets, for the lodger had mugged him and stolen his treats. As he soared through the air, screamed with evil delight, "Merry Christmas to all, and to all a good night!"
Nice car, Maurice.
That's Masked Maggot.
Oh.
Don't give away my secret identity.
Oh, your secret's safe with me. Uh-huh. Boy, nice tires.
Yeah, mag wheels. Get it? Mag.
I get it. Oh, what's that?
Oh, that's a rocket launcher.
Uh-huh. And that?
The oil slick.
Ooh. And, oh, what about that one? What does that thing do?
You want to come in and give it a try?
Would I? Oh.
This is a true story. It happened to a friend of mine. Mike was a stock boy at the local supermarket. It wasn't a bad job, as far as jobs go, but it was pretty boring. Loading groceries onto the shelves and sweeping the floors. Sometimes he'd help the checkout girls bag groceries. Not all the checkout girls, just the hot ones. Anyhow, one day Mike was stocking the shelves, following that old stock boy's rule of thumb of putting the fresh stuff at the back and the oldie moldies up front when he was called to the checkout. One of the customers needed help carrying the groceries. This particular customer turned out to be a granny, and she had a ton of bags with her. Things were starting to look up. You see, another of the stock boys' rules of thumb was that the value of the tip is directly proportional to the number of bags to be carried. Mike picked up the old granny's bags and carried them out to the parking lot. That's when Granny confessed that she didn't have a car and asked if he wouldn't mind carrying the bags back to her place. "It's just around the corner," she said. It didn't take an Einstein to figure out that the old lady'd probably be so grateful she'd give him a really humongous tip. So Mike said, "Sure." So they started walking. That's when Mike realized that just around the corner was kind of an understatement. This granny lived at least a mile from the store and uphill all the way, through a strange, gingerbready kind of neighborhood. The whole place was like Granny City. "Not too heavy for you, is it, Sonny?" asked Granny. Mike, drenched with sweat, grunted and shook his head no. "Mind the eggs, dear," she said. They finally got to her house. Mike dragged the bags up the front steps. He put the bags on the kitchen table and then collapsed into a chair. He was totally wiped. That's when Granny said, "You've been so kind. Let me get you something for your time and trouble. I'll be right back." This is what he'd been waiting for. As the old lady scurried into the back room, she called out, "You must be hungry. Why don't you fix yourself a snack? There's lots to eat in the pantry." Mike was starving now that she'd mentioned it. He got up and opened the pantry doors. It was dark and musty, filled with jars of things like jellied calf's livers and pig's knuckles. What other weird stuff would he find? Something gross, maybe? He knew he should stop looking, but he couldn't help himself. He was hungry. He opened a cupboard door and it rolled out at him. He was scared, but he caught it. It was nothing weird at all. It was just a small jar of mixed nuts. He popped some of the nuts into his mouth. They were pretty good. Could have used some salt, but not too bad otherwise. They'd hold him till he found some real food. But there was nothing. Just jar after jar, shelf after shelf of yucky stuff like porpoise parts and monkey meat. Mike was getting the dry heaves just from looking at it. He decided to stick with the nuts, thank you very much. At least he knew nuts were safe. And before he knew it, he'd finished off the jar. Finally, Granny came back into the kitchen. "Here you go, dearie, something for your trouble." And she held out 15 cents. Mike took the money. "Gee, thanks, lady. Yeesh. All that work for nothing." But, on the bright side, he'd got a free snack out of it. "Oh, by the way," he said, You had some mixed nuts in the cupboard? Sorry, I couldn't stop myself and I kinda ate them all.
Oh, that's all right, Sonny,
Granny said with a kindly smile.
with the state of my teeth, all I can do is suck the chocolate off them anyway.
Hey, it's a true story. Happened to a friend of mine. Yeah, Mike's still working at the supermarket, but he's added a new rule to the stock boys' rules of thumb. Never eat on the job.
Now, tell me, oh masked maggoty one, what is this little button here?
Which button there?
The little red one right there.
Oh, that little red one. I wouldn't touch that if I were you.
Oh, and why not?
Ejector seat.